You're listening to a main feed episode. Go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers where €5 a month gets you weekly full-length episodes, stray bonus content and access to the back catalogue. Also helps cover hosting and gives us money for sweeties. Thank you. Celtic Ligers.
Recorded November 13th, 2023.
I don't know if you saw that, but they had like a Wile E. Coyote movie that is completely finished and made, and then they were just like got it written off on their taxes. They were like, actually, sorry.
I was looking.
Oh,
at my phone.
I thought somebody was coming in.
No, I was looking at my phone because that has, actually I can get it on my computer. Yeah, apparently Warner Brothers are like 45 billion.
Yes, exactly.
In
Yeah.
debt. So that's why they're doing all this mad stuff just because they're like, any way we can save even a couple of quid, we are doing that.
It is really funny because so David Zaslav is the current CEO of Warner Brothers, and he was like former CEO of the Discovery Channel, and then the Discovery Channel bought out Warner Brothers, and then they pay him this extortionate salary, just an obscene amount of money.
From CNBC. Thursday, June 1st, 2023, David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery Incorporated, was paid $498,915,318 between 2018 and 2022. That's a staggering 384 times the average pay of a Hollywood writer.
And then he makes all of these ludicrous decisions, which he tries to frame as being there's almost Trumpian in that way, where it's I came in and I started swinging a big axe, and we're going to get rid of all the dead weight and do all this. And then this is another example. Batgirl was one of the first films. They were Batgirl was so shit it couldn't be released. And then, Flash came out and they're this is actually the best movie ever. Tom Cruise said it was. And then it just tanks and it's terrible and everybody hates it. And then they they do all these big swings. But yeah, this one is one of the funniest ones just because of how much it exposes, because they have this film completely ready to go. And then it's no, we're not going to release it. We're going to get 13 million back in tax. And it's it's because they can't say it's because the film is bad, because all of the people who are behind it, all of the the focus groups were saying it was great. Yeah. Everybody was this looks amazing. And then one of the production people, they leaked a behind the scenes video, and I put it in the chat, but you should watch this video because it's just all of these hundreds of people making physical sets. I should say what the movie is, first of all. The movie is called Coyote versus ACME, okay? And it's a live-action animation hybrid where Wile E. Coyote sues the ACME company for selling him defective products, okay? And so what they do is they'll have, from this behind-the-scenes video, they have, big, massive, red ACME rockets that they've physically made. They're testing out explosions. They're testing out, they're out in the middle of the desert, and they've, let's say they put down, a long line of wire or something, and then you just, tug the wire that lets up this trail of dust so that some animator can put in the Roadrunner later on, Yeah. And so it's, all these incredible things, and then they're no, sorry, we're going to get 30 million back because we cannot risk even releasing this and not getting anything back, Yeah,
I just don't understand the, how, they're getting 13 million back, is it?
30 million, it turns out.
30 million.
30. Yeah.
Are they, if they put that in a cinema, they're probably they get 30 million now, wouldn't they?
Well, the thing is, they have to spend the money on the advertising and the promo and all that. And so they just don't have it. They're just here's the funny thing is they were tried to quietly do this, but then for some reason, this got a lot of publicity and attention. So now they've actually been forced into a position where, because one of the other things about it is that James Gunn wrote it, and James Gunn, who directed Suicide Squad, and he's taken over DC films, the film division of DC.
Yeah.
And he's also did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and shit,
Wasn't he cancelled? Isn't he problematic?
He was, but in some genuine neo-Nazi, dug up some old tweets where he was being an edgelord, and we're He was literally doing dead baby jokes, and then they were like, "Oh, you're fired." just fired him from Disney immediately, and then everybody's like, "What the fuck?" But anyway, he came back.
he was a real early casualty of the culture war, where it was like, people kept getting like right wing people fired. Swung back around and
exactly.
But ironic that a guy called Gunn would get fired.
Yeah, from out of a cannon.
Yeah.
So basically, that Warner Brothers have now given them permission. They're like, yeah, you can just shop this around to other studios and see if they'll like put it out in cinemas. And it's like, and then do you get money off the back end of that? So literally, Warner Brothers is just trying to play it cool of just going like, yeah, it's fine, no biggie. You can just sell it if you want. I was like that is so dead. Like you're talking about, like I said, Warner Brothers is like one of the first movie studios that there ever was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the characters that are the most synonymous with Warner Brothers would probably be the Looney Tunes. Okay. And they're just trying to casually be like, no, that film's done and all, but we don't have enough money to release it. I mean, you can go find somebody to release it if you want. And it was like, fuck, man, you're not embarrassed. This is so like,
Yeah.
like the film studio that is like some sort of like I don't know, like an institution that is now owned by the fucking Discovery Channel, who are just running it into the ground. And like, anyway,
I always get so sad when that happens, even though it's just
honestly,
just like a company and everyone, like probably all the way back, everyone who's ever been involved in running it, has just been like a greedy millionaire. Yeah. Still, I get upset. I'm like, oh, it was stuck around for like 130 years, and now it's gone.
I guess because like the movie guys, the movie CEOs were like movie guys, as opposed to these guys who are like, oh, I started like a tech startup where like you trade your furniture with somebody else's furniture on an app, and it's like now I own Casablanca. It's like it's crazy.
I know, it is funny how like so many CEOs are just Jack Donaghy.
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah,
I'm in charge of the microwave oven and TV division.
I just remembering when he was trying to tank NBC, and then he starred in a show called God Cop. Do you remember?
No.
A New York City detective solves crimes with the help of his new partner, God.
So God just tells him who did it?
God can't just tell him who did it.
Why not?
Watch the pilot, Lemon. It's all explained in the end by the wise black man played by Karl Malone. If there is one thing I have realized from being God, is that the more you know, the more you realize you do not know.
Why is he learning anything? He's supposed to be God.
I think Esposito lied to us.
What do you mean you think? You're God. I don't understand the rules of this.
Let us pray.
To whom?
I know you doubted me, but now you see my plan can work. So what do you say? Are you on board, Liz?
You just called me Liz.
Well, we can fix that in the cutting room.
Jonathan.
It's so good. And then like, he's like, so are you with me, Liz? And then the guy, Karl Malone's like, you just called me Liz. Oh, we can take that out and post. And he's just walking off the set and it's still on TV. Oh, it's so funny. What a show.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about, like, because I watched like clips of Dr. Spaceman there the other day. Just the funniest character
Dr.
ever.
Spaceman.
Yeah. But you know when he goes like, Tracy, you're going to die. What? When I tell you who I'm dating. he goes, Squeaky From. She is difficult.
Tracy, you are going to die.
What? No!
When I tell you who I'm dating. Squeaky From. She is difficult.
Yeah. I've probably said it a million times, but there's some shows you watch and they're just like, everywhere they can put in like another joke.
I know.
Like there you have like 3 jokes in 2 sentences. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Another one that's sort of like that, it's not quite as dense, is Workaholics.
I don't know if I'd agree, but yeah, I
just
think
find
it's okay.
There's loads of bits in there where they have worked an extra joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like it's not nearly as good as
No.
30 Rock, but I always just like the one, and they're like trying to make the boss late for work for some reason.
Okay.
So they pretend that who's the
Anders.
no, Anders is the tall one.
Yeah, there's Anders, Adam, and then
Adam,
Blake.
and then they pretend like Adam. They're like, Adam pretend he got hit by the car, and then like Adam moaned, and then he's like, yeah, that's sexual, that's pornographic.
I always love that. Like, what I like about that show is that all of them, they really seem very much in control. Like, they're all like, they got their characters, and they have a great like supporting cast. But then also, I don't know if they're in the room with the edit as well, but the edit is also very tied to it. You know, where they cut for the break. Like, there was one in particular where he's like seeing something on a screen. Like, he sees that he's going to be fired. He goes, "Fuck!" And then they cut to like, you gotta be fresh. And then they cut back from break, and he's like, "Ah."
You gotta be fresh.
Me! And I just love that kind of stuff, you know, like, and they use it to lesser effect in shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you know, where it becomes almost like kind of like part of their box of tools. You know, the way that if you somehow like, I don't know what the word would be, but like if you just turned like an episode of Friends into a drone, you could kind of tell where the jokes are meant to be.
Yeah,
you know, like, No, I did a few minutes ago. You know, like those type of like peaks and valleys. But like Brooklyn Nine-Nine almost took that kind of workaholics energy and then turned it into this like corporate machine of like, you know.
True. It had the energy of workaholics, but was like in no way edgy.
Yeah.
I like the best episode of Workaholics. So one of them is and it's ironic considering who they got. Your man who plays the pedophile.
Yeah, Chris D'Elia.
And then they're like they meet him through like a Justin Bieber fan club or something.
Right.
Online, because they're doing To Catch a Predator.
Yeah.
And then he turns up and he has like a vaporizer for weed. And they decide to befriend him. And then they're like trying to make him go out with gymnasts because they look like little boys.
I wonder how they feel about that now. That would be a very fun.
Yeah.
I
know.
I watched. There's another, you know, because the guy who did Brooklyn Nine-Nine, just because this is something I wanted to talk about for a while, so I'm using this as an opportunity. But like, he also was, I believe he was one of the co-creators and like head writers or whatever of Parks and Rec. So
and The Good Place, isn't that right?
No, there's another guy for that. Although he was also involved in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Wait, is that Chuck Lorre? No,
Michael Schur. So there's a guy called Michael Schur who was one of the head writers on The Office, and then he wrote on Parks and Rec, and then he was one of the like co-creators of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then he created The Good Place.
Okay.
And all of that stuff is that very toxic positivity type of shit. You know, you can kind of associate with him. But then the stuff that Dan Gore is the other guy. So Dan Gore was on Parks and Rec, I believe, and then he was also on created Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But like, I was thinking about both those shows because we did an episode previously, ages ago. Where we talked about Parks and Rec. You remember when we watched Biden?
Yeah.
You remember like the way they laundered Biden and all that type of shit? You know?
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
got into that. He was like the sex icon for Leslie Knope. And it was supposed to be like, he's an early choice, but he's also, you know, he also does slay.
Yeah, and also, you know, like it'd be the kind of carrying on from that Onion article about him being the uncle with the Trans Am and the aviator glasses and eating the ice cream and shit like that. And So like, but like it during this was, I believe, like Parks and Rec, wasn't it made like during the second Obama administration, and there was a kind of plot line basically that had Leslie Knope having to deal with the version of the Tea Party that infiltrated. Like it was a stand-in for the Tea Party, but basically like some very obstinate conservative politicians who got her removed from office at one point.
Was
and
he
then
a
she had to
man?
get back in.
Senator, Councilman.
I think he was just a complacent guy, but there was like one kind of. Either way, the point was is that it was meant to be that like, oh, things haven't been more divisive in American politics, but if we roll up our sleeves, then we can figure out a compromise with each other because we all want what's best for our community at the end of the day.
Yeah,
like that was the kind of thing out of that,
right?
And then years later, it's like no, like it was pre-Trump, so you're just like, oh right, so that was a load of shit, and you laundered the reputation of this fucking absolute asshole who
and
I know and McCain.
There's also a thing of whether like someone doesn't like Obama. There's like the Tea Party, they're like Leslie Knope, where liberals are like racist much. But then you go back and like Hillary Clinton when she was running against Obama.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
like share that picture of him wearing the turban, sitting in the cave, or like, being like, I'm going to stay in the race because you never know who's going to shoot Obama for being black. It's like, she was much more racist than...
Yeah.
Because, like, say McCain, he's obviously racist, but he...
Yeah.
The bit where someone was like, I do not like Obama, I think he's evil, he's a Muslim, he's communist.
Yeah.
And then McCain was like, he is not a Muslim communist, he's a good man.
Yeah.
I don't agree with him, but he's a good... As if, like...
Yeah.
He's like...
Yeah, a lot of people gave him flack for that because he was saying, like, what, you're trying to say that if he was Muslim that he'd be a bad man. But, like, if it was Hillary Clinton asked the same thing, she'd be like, well, we can't say that. The jury's out. We're not sure. Do you know what I mean? She'd find a way to deflect and kind of like...
All I'll say is I don't agree with Sharia law. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, and was Hillary Clinton ever in... She was in Broad City, which Amy Poehler produced.
She was in Broad City. And like, it was so insane because with Parks and Rec, the thing was supposed to be like, Leslie Knope stands Biden, but she's like a freak anyway. So
yeah,
it's like, when you're watching it, you're not really supposed to think Biden is cool. You're supposed to think he's cool maybe for a politician or something.
Yeah.
If even. Whereas like Hillary Clinton, it was like hip hop star Hillary Clinton and is in the building. You know what I mean? And I always remember, because the whole thing is like that they're volunteering on her campaign. Where we're with her. And then there's a bit where they'd obviously only gotten there for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is insane. That she was like, okay, I'll be on this incredibly popular sitcom. Only for 30 seconds, though. Even though the whole episode revolves... And then they wanted to make it seem like she was dancing. But she obviously was never going to do that. So she just is standing still, and they're sort of like waving the camera around her, and like they're flashing. And
there's like I remember.
Music.
Yeah.
And like she's standing like the way they were like, oh, she's sick,
Yeah.
It's like she looked sick. And
I heard like that Amy Poehler, like this might be complete bullshit, but I heard that like the first like if she is campaigning, then she doesn't really have that much time, and like filming takes like quite a long time even for a shot like that. But even still, apparently she appeared for like one day. They did one day of filming, but then they needed to do like pick up shots. So then Amy Poehler stood in for her, like from. So like if whenever you're seeing her from behind, it's Amy Poehler.
Okay.
Apparently, I don't know if that's true.
Good lore.
Good Chuck lore.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. The thing that's interesting as well is, I wonder what they would think about that now, because I was surprised that Abby Jacobson and Alana Glazer, who were in Broad City, they've signed any petition that condemns Israel. They've actually signed it. Funnily enough.
It's interesting the way they did that, and then Hannibal Buress sort of went more conservative.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he became a landlord and owned he owns a bunch of Airbnbs and like.
Yeah, like he became like a slumlord, like not just a like.
Pretty much, yeah.
It wasn't like he just invest like it wasn't just like he invested some money in like a stock portfolio and someone went into property. It's like no, he owned the properties and they were like in bad nick, and then it got really weird with people when they brought it up.
Or like he kept having a go at like Bernie Sanders as well. He really hated Bernie Sanders.
He was also a weird one in that like he sort of became a rapper, sort of. Like,
did he?
Yeah, like he definitely started rapping at one point, and like he had the DJ on stage with him, and like it was that thing of like he's like, I know a lot of rappers, so I should just do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he clearly he loves music, and he clearly kind of wants to be a musician, like most good comedians, honestly. Or kind of like I wish I was a musician. Like Mark Maron, the best comedian there is. Or Eddie Murphy, although he was actually good, so
yeah. Jackie Chan.
My girl wants to party all the time.
Jackie Chan.
But I wanted to bring up this point, which is that Brooklyn Nine-Nine continued and then basically kind of limped on.
It persisted.
It got cancelled. Yeah. Do you remember when it got cancelled initially, and then FX were like, "We'll fund the rest of the episodes," and then Black Lives Matter happened, and then they were like, "It's actually not really cool to have a show that's like, hey, the cops are loads of fun, aren't they? Especially the New York cops, you know."
Yeah.
So they just made like a bunch of they made some episodes to try and address that. Would you believe? Like the last season was about them, like kind of coming to terms. Like Rosa leaves the NYPD because she thinks that they're institutionally corrupt and racist. And anyway, there's a bunch of little episodes like that. But essentially, like these cops, but they're the good ones, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, he made 2 shows like that, and then he made the show Killing It. This is not Michael Schur, Dan Gore. So then Dan Gore made this other show called Killing It recently with Craig Robinson and Claudio Doherty.
Scottish guy?
No, do you know he's like
Craig
the black guy from... He played the Pontiac Bandit in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And it's him and Claudio Doherty.
Oh.
And so it's set down in Florida around 2016. And it's about this guy who's kind of... He's a bit of a go-getter. He has these ideas of like being a big high-earning businessman, you know? But he's just really down on his luck. And then he comes across apparently there's like an invasive species of snake in Florida. And there's a competition where you get like a few $1,000s if you're the one who kills the most of these snakes.
Okay.
So him and Claudio Doherty go into business like killing these snakes together.
Cool.
And
Simpsons did it.
Did they? Oh, like Whacking Day. Yeah, the Simpsons freaking did it.
Yeah.
Okay. Like our favorite show, South Park, said famously.
What?
Simpsons did it.
Oh.
They had an episode about that. They've had that episode recently as well. Did you see that? The Panderverse. Enter the Panderverse.
I saw an ad for it on... Gee, let me stand on some business here, which is a phrase I just learned. Have you noticed that all these so-called social media companies, I say so-called because I call them anti-social, they're really they're really trying to get the ads back in. You know what I mean? I haven't seen an ad in years, and then suddenly YouTube have made this big push to like I feel like you don't have ad blocker anyway.
I do, yeah. They've fucked over my ad block. Now I get to have to see all these stupid ads.
Yeah, so I found one that works, but like, it's a real battle now between these like couple of ad blocking bits of software and YouTube. Like, it's almost like day by day you have to update these bits of software. Yeah. But then the other thing is that have you been on Instagram recently? And
I did, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
They Meta have introduced a paid subscription thing where they're like, you can pay $12 or euro, whichever, a month to not see ads, or you can use it for free and the data can be sold to whoever the fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a way of getting around GDPR, I think.
Yeah.
I hate ads so much.
I hate them. Like the other one as well. Like we'll probably never find this out, or if we do, it'll be way after the fact. But you know the way Elon Musk was like, "Oh, Twitter is overvalued because it has all these bots," and I never experienced a bot. Now I get like about 10 bots a week following me or liking my posts or whatever, and it's just like I wouldn't be surprised if he was like flooding the platform with bots to be like, "See, I told you," you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's such a fucking moron. Like, do you know that thing that he did where, like, you know, the articles, like, where it used to be that, like, I guess that they would have, like, if you shared an article, it would include the headline and a picture. But then he was like, "Oh, that doesn't look nice to me, so I'm now removing the headline. So now all it is a fucking picture. And you have to click through the link." But he goes, I just remember him tweeting out like, much better now. And I was like, you're so, like, you can't process that information that you're just like, oh, it's just too cluttered. I can't make sense of it. It was like, then you're an idiot. You're a fucking moron. Because it's the most like, it's the most coherent way to view these things. Do you know?
I know.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, we promised never to do ads. Do we?
Yeah, I mean, we
got offers. Remember?
Have we?
Yeah, do you remember we got the email and it was like, and it's in, you know, they always do the thing where they're like, "Hey, I really liked your recent discussion on, you know, Garfield."
They have the episode title. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, new trailer today. Garfield heads out there.
And then
Chris Pratt sounds shit.
Yeah, they were like gonna. It was like some betting company, and they were like, "We wanted you to promote political gambling."
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like, but I already vote for Sinn Féin. Yeah, that's all the
good.
You know.
Yeah.
And, But yeah, anyway, we didn't go for it. Do you not remember that? They were like,
I don't really remember it because I just dismiss all those things. I was like, there's nobody sending this email. This is just fucking bullshit.
Because they were like, "Oh, it's like you do this read, and then we can even organize for our political, our political expert to come on the podcast, and he can give you some tips and give your listeners some tips on what to bet on."
I'm just going to drop in the clip of David Lynch talking about when he met George Lucas.
Now, right about in this time, I started getting a little bit of a headache. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. So he took me upstairs, and he showed me these things called Wookiees. And now this headache is getting stronger. And he showed me many animals and different things. Then he took me for a ride in his Ferrari for a lunch. And George is kind of short, so his seat was way back, and he was almost laying down in the car. We were flying through this little town up in Northern California. We went to a restaurant. Not that I don't like salad, but that's all they had was salad. Then I got a really, almost like a migraine headache. And I could hardly wait to get to home. And even before I got home, I kind of crawled into a phone booth and phoned my agent. I said, "There's no way. I know no way I can do this."
But yeah, like that's how I feel of just like that kind of like, just like when you said that, oh, we can get that guy to come on. No, don't get him to come on. And then also the gambling, like fuck yourself. Like, I don't know. Is there some parts of life that can't be commodified? Is that and I recognize we got a Patreon, but like, fuck it. Do you know what I mean? Actually, what were we at? Just at an hour and go like, anyway, patreon.com/Celtic. You know, that makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable and I don't like it. But the more broke that I get, the more I'm like, maybe I have to do some sort of fucking deal with the devil to actually get paid. Do you know? But maybe there's got to be better ways to get paid than going like, go to, bookies.ie for all your, blah, 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 betting outcome results. It's like, fuck off.
Gambling is just particularly noxious. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And I hate its association with comedy as well. So that would also bother me a lot, do you know?
Because, like, here's some lore about me, about my dad, I suppose. He used to run a bookies. And you weren't allowed to advertise on the outside of your shop. And glass had to be frosted, other sort of stuff. I'm not saying it was good, but I'm just saying it was like, there was it was hard to gamble.
A lot of restrictions, yeah.
Whereas now it's like, that phone, the thing in your pocket, the phone that you do absolutely everything through. Now you can lose all your money instantaneously through that. And then when you do that, we will loan you some more money,
Yeah.
It's just so... It'd be like, imagine if Deliveroo or Uber delivered gear and a syringe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just as much as you wanted. Or like crack.
Although a certain independent article I read recently would actually, corroborate what you just said. Just kidding.
Yeah. What I say is that some of the things that are on Deliveroo are like crack,
Yeah, like Crack Donald's.
Yeah.
Remember when I lived above Boyle Sports on Dorset Street?
Yeah.
A sign went up and then went down super quickly, but it was so funny about, like, apparently there was some legislation that might have been introduced, which, I don't know, would fuck over the way that they advertise. It would cost them money in some way or shape or form. Who knows? But they were like, support your local bookies and, like, reject this legislation. And I was like, your local chain bookies. What the fuck are you talking about? It was insane. Like, they're the most hideous, awful places. And then it's like, if you see anybody going in there, it's like just the most destitute fuckers ever.
And then like
living above it was miserable. The smoking area out back,
But then they're also like, again, like back in the day, it was like the bookie had to come up with the odds and all this sort of stuff. Whereas now it's like they're hiring like advanced mathematicians to come up with the odds. You know what I mean? Like they're hiring computer scientists to come up with the odds.
Yeah.
It's just there's no way. It's just completely inhumane now.
Like another thing that people brought to mind recently, rather recently, but like the brain drain that's gone on through capitalism, I guess,
Yeah.
Whereby you have like, we got the best mathematicians working on this right now. And I was like, can they be working on anything else? Is that at all possible? Do you know?
I know. Yeah. That's it. So they could be working for Paddy Power or they could be working for like an app, that lets you follow women home late at night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or like there was an app recently that's launched in the UK, I believe, called Zilch. Have you heard of this?
No.
And it's about like micro loans, apparently. I haven't researched it. I don't know. I'm just repeating what somebody else told me.
One where you can like, so it's not that you take the loan, it's that you are the creditor. Is that? There was an app that was developed and it was like, because when you hear micro loan, you're thinking like, you can borrow $5 or something. No, there's another one, and it's actually like you have a tenner. You can loan that to some chap in Ghana.
Oh, wow.
Or like, I think as well, part of it was like, and you can lend it to You know, women whose husbands have been killed in war or like in a cobalt mine and they're just trying to get by. You can loan them a tenner and they'll pay you back with interest.
I would love that. Yeah, I would love to be basically a fucking landlord to somebody. You know?
Exactly. It's like, you know, the way the fact that you owe other people money ruins your life in every way.
Yeah.
Now you can ruin someone else's life, whose life is already ruined.
I like that. That's not what I heard about this one with Zilch. What I heard with Zilch is that literally like, oh, I want to buy a pizza, so I'm gonna like loan money for the pizza, and then the interest rates are such and such, you know. But like the thing that was interesting about it, and I'm kind of repeating something that I heard on Real Politic, which is worth a listen. But they were talking about how easy Starmer gets, you know, treated in the media, and they were like literally like a Nicola Murray from The Thick of It style photo happened with him, where like, you know, it's like, you know, the grown-ups are back in the room, so big business has come back to the tent. So Zilch had like a tent at Labour conference, and he was standing in front of a big poster, and the poster says, "Everyone wins with Zilch." Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just the most, does that not just embody what Labour is right now? Just that idea of like, but like nobody saw it, nobody cares. Like, you know, the Ed Stone goes out there, him eating a fucking bacon buddy or whatever. Corbyn like being, oh, he's a crank who got files from Russia telling us that the NHS is going to be sold to the Americans. Then Starmer stands in front of that picture, and apparently it's like crickets, nothing. Can't be done with that.
What was the Thick of It one? What's the sign say?
She stood in between two letters. I am bent. That was it.
Oh yeah. Problematic.
But yeah, just to finish the point about killing it, I was saying killing it like it almost looks like penance for the other two shows that he made, because it's like, you know, it's like, hey, politics, we can all kind of band together, you know, and then do it, and then the cops are kind of great, gee willikers, you know, and then in this one it's like just every single shitty thing that can happen under capitalism happens to these people in Florida in 2016, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like a criticism of like, you know, like you have to watch it. I don't want to spoil it too much, but basically like it's a repudiation of like just that horrible mindset that like leads to the world that we're living in right now. And it's an incredibly like show that is like, actually I was wrong. There is no hope. The cops suck. The government will fuck you over and steal your house. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all this type of stuff. It's like, it was like, thank you. Like, that was such a balm for my soul. And one of the lines that they had in it was like, an FBI agent comes into him and then he's like, are you a cop? And he's like, no, you know I'm not a cop because my lips don't move when I'm reading, you know? And I was like, that's just such a... I don't know, it just felt like, you know...
Yeah, you wouldn't see that in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
No, you wouldn't. They would be like, oh no, that's that cop. He's kind of dumb, ignorant, and racist. Jake Peralta, Andy Samberg, he's actually... You know?
Yeah. You know that the Irish invented reading silently?
Really? That's true?
That's true.
There's
some like old document, they're talking about some Irish monk, and they were like, it's mad, he reads, he's like, he just looks at the words and it goes directly into his brain.
I'm trying to imagine how that would be like, you know?
What?
I just imagine like a P.T. Barnum style thing where there's a guy sitting there reading in silence and everyone's like, oh my God, like pointing at him. But like the other one that I'm thinking of is like he just like, oh, I've been reading out loud the whole time. How are you meant to process the words otherwise? Do you know?
Yeah.
But like now it's like the opposite. It'd be like if I was reading out loud, I wouldn't be able to take in any of the words I was reading. It would feel like I was doing an additional thing, do you know?
I know, because it's funny, like if you look at the structure of old, like, you know, medieval libraries, it's loads of tiny rooms. And it's because you had the book and you were reading aloud, so you needed your own room.
Distracted, yeah. I'm listening to a lot of Doctor Who audio dramas, and you know, like one of the things that happens in like the actual Doctor Who show is there's not many Irish people in it. But in the audio dramas, it's like, hey, there's some Irish people in stories. And so they had one with the Book of Kells, and I was like, oh, that's cool, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I just started this series there like this morning, and they have like introduced an Irish character. So one of the Doctor's companions is like an Irish woman called Molly O'Sullivan, who's from World War I. And she's like, Doctor, I don't know about your tardy box. And she keeps calling it that. And I was like, okay, this is a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not really liking this depiction. And then they introduced this character, which is like, I was a guy called like Sean O'Dooley or something. All right. And what he basically was, like Molly had like kind of was like looking after him because she thought that he was a victim in the war. But then the Doctor kind of goes like, you know, no, he's not. I can tell it off of him. How many people? When did you start executing people? And then he goes, oh, about 2 Easters ago. And I was like, oh no. And the Doctor is like really disapproving of the Easter Rising. And then he's like, you know, this character goes like, now there's a good girl and give me back my gun because I'd hate to go to hell for strangling a lady, you know? And then something sciencey happens where her eyes like turn black, okay? And he goes, Picora, she's invaded by some sort of spirit. The devil is here. I'm leaving, you know? And then they cut to like somebody outside who's been like watching them, and it was like, you know, O'Doherty's left the house. And then it was like, where's he going to go? And it's like, oh, I know. And then they show up to a pub because of course he went off to get a drink after such a shock. And then they like shoot him in the back of the head. And I was like, oh, now I'm like, please stop putting Irish characters. Don't do any more. Like, I don't want to.
Armistice or no, I doubt he will ever be forgiven.
What? What do you mean?
I knew you for no normal man, friend.
Likewise. Tell me, Tommy, when did you first start executing people?
What?
Dublin, 2 Easters back.
Oh, no. You're not a deserter. You lied to me, Tommy.
Now then, Molly O'Sullivan, me gun, if you please, 'cause you'll never use it, and I'll be a lifetime in repentance of the breaking of your neck.
No, we're going in the tardy box. Is that right, Doctor? You came here in your tardy box?
This was written in 2011 or 2010 as well.
Crazy.
Like, I know. Anyway, I'm just kind of floored. Like
if you say like 1980. I would have been like,
yeah, exactly.
That's bad, you know. But 2011.
Yeah, I just love that. Like, kind of. I feel like that depiction of Irish people is kind of the ambient Irish depiction in most Brits' heads, and it's only gotten worse since 2016. Yeah,
it's so mad the way, like, you know, in Ireland when we think of like. You know, say I saw Eamon McCann speak yesterday at the Marxism Festival. And like, he's very eloquent and he's a great communicator. And I'm like, yeah, that's the stereotypical Irish like activist. You know what I mean? Like that's our tradition. And then like the English, it's like they just see the complete other way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when they think of someone like Eamon McCann, they're just like, hey, he probably goes to the pub a lot, and he's still afraid of the devil in 2023.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's mad just how different we view our tradition versus how they view it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because another reductive depiction of Irish people was said by the ex-Home Secretary now, Suella Braverman.
Okay.
So I want to read that out.
Yeah, the Braverman stuff is insane. The way...
Yeah.
Get
that open.
What was it? What did she say again?
I have it in...
She was like... One of the things she said was the police go easy on leftists.
Yeah,
and
because they're afraid of being considered, because they're afraid of the woke brigade, basically.
But they go too hard on, they're like Tommy Robinson, the reddest man you know,
crazy
type characters. What else did she say?
This was the part, I want to get into this paragraph here, because she did like some notes app thing. I don't know what the fucking deal with it was, but like, basically, you know, you're like a... You know, she's like an evil person, and she's like kind of like Vradker if he was more of a psychopath, basically, where it's like, oh, that didn't work. Why don't I try this? And it's like just kind of trying different ways of being conservative to appeal to different audiences, and the woke stuff, transgender, migrants, and it's like, I'll say anything. I don't give a shit. What do you want me to say that can get me like an angle or an advantage, and like maybe in like a future Tory leadership, I'll be like have an edge over Rishi Sunak because I said the unsayable,
Yeah.
But she says all this like pure evil shit. But the reason that she got kind of turfed from the cabinet is because she went after the cops. And then like it's like she's like, oh, the cops are afraid to do what needs to be done and stuff. And they're like, no, we like the cops.
Yeah.
So like the Tories are coming after her going like, she can't be giving out about the cops. We fucking like the cops,
That's
But this one was the funniest thing. She goes, she's trying to be like, everybody who marched in, in solidarity with Palestine is a terrorist and a Hamas supporter. They're hate marches is what she referred to them as.
Right, okay.
But this paragraph, I don't know if you read this one, but she goes, here we reach the heart of the matter. I do not believe that these marches are merely a cry for help for Gaza. They are an assertion of primacy by certain groups, particularly Islamists, of the kind we are more used to seeing in Northern Ireland. Also disturbingly reminiscent of Ulster are the reports that some of Saturday's march group organizers have links to terrorist groups, including Hamas.
Yeah.
And so then people were like, so you're talking about big marches, hate marches that happen in Northern Ireland. So you're talking about like the orange marches. And she goes, no, I meant like the Shinners, probably. Except she wouldn't even know the Shinners. She would just be like, no, I meant the other guys. Do you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you talking about? Because no, they don't march in like the numbers that you're talking about. And she's like, oh, it's terrifying what's happening in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, that's the UK. It'd be like saying that's terrifying what's happening in Scotland. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like as in like Scotland is like this fucking crazy backwater of awful, ignorant. And it was like, and also like somebody pointed, I mean, plenty of people pointed it out, but it was like, so you're saying that these people who marched had links to terrorist groups, correct? Loyalist paramilitary groups.
Yeah.
They were like, why the fuck were you in government with them then?
Yeah. I know. Did you see the crowd they were defending the cenotaph in
Yes,
London?
I did. Yeah, that was funny.
They always think people are just gonna make a beeline for that and just like the thing is made out of like solid granite. Like what do they think is gonna happen to it? Yeah, and then they're like
that it'd be defaced.
Yeah, we'll just wipe it off.
Who gives a shit?
But they're like, oh, we're just gonna defend this. And like, of course, that's the one. You see, like, that's the one where there's a riot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the one where like violence breaks out, and it's where the ones
Yeah.
who are like, who've imagined this threat come out to defend it, as opposed to like it's literally reactionary. It's like they're reacting to an imagined threat to something, as opposed to the other side who are like coming out to show support for or like to create action as opposed to just reaction.
But also that the cops are standing there. So I don't know what happens. I don't know if like left wingers went up and they, or like whatever. Not you wouldn't even say left wingers. Like let's say people who are marching in the Palestine solidarity thing. If there was a place that they wanted to go and they came up to these cops, would the cops react the same way that they did with the right? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I think that the Met is trying to do some sort of like basically what was happening with their response to all of these protests is pretty much how you would want them to respond to any demonstration, where they're just like, yeah, there was a bunch of arrests for like people who were a little rowdy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there would be any conviction. And the numbers were so great that we kind of just had to try and intervene only when necessary, and we told this to the Home Secretary, and she was like, no, you need to be going in there and cracking skulls. And we were like,
and that's
well, no, we don't,
And that's like a radical change, because remember,
a
few years ago, it's bad, I can't remember the woman's name, the one who
Sarah Everard.
Yeah, she was killed by the police officer.
Wayne Cousins.
There was like obviously all the demonstrations are going on, and then like as soon as night fell on this peaceful demonstration, the Met just came out and beat the shit out, like for absolutely no reason apart from.
And this was like around or after the time of George Floyd, and then you have a picture of a woman wearing a mask being kneeled on by a Met officer. You know,
that's it.
There's like they've had their own version of spy cops as well, where they just infiltrated left-wing groups, had kids with women, and just vanished in the middle of the night. They've like surveys been carried out proving that they are institutionally racist and homophobic.
Yeah,
you know, like they would. I think that there was stuff where they like Muslim officers would have like bacon grease smeared over their like lockers or whatever. You know, shit like this. Just
they're like an evil, even for like an English like
Yeah.
police force. They're an
Yeah.
evil group of people.
Yeah. And also, like, didn't do anything when Downing Street were having their parties and all that shit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then, meanwhile, some guy in Hackney, you know, gets like a €3,000 fine or £3,000 fine for like, you know, visiting his nan through a window or something.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, it's obviously like awful and terrible, but like, so what they're doing is like some sort of damage control. And then she's like, no, I don't really want like you to do damage control. I want you to whip up this shit, you know?
Yeah.
I want you to make this happen. You know, will this violence into existence to justify my stance on this march? And then, yeah, just kind of turned against her because, yeah, obviously the fascists just showed up to the cenotaph, pushed away the police. And then apparently, like, there's video footage of them. They were like, you didn't even show the full footage where they just stand peacefully in front of the cenotaph. I was like, yeah, it's because that doesn't matter because you pushed past the police to get there. You know, you did way more violence than apparently, like, you know, hundreds and thousands of people who were marching in London. This one small group of like radical bigots. It's insane.
so funny the way the right wing always do that. They're like, you have to watch the whole footage. They're always like, you have to watch the whole, and then it's like, it's either something completely unrelated or something damning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or something that doesn't justify it at all. Where it's like, oh, we were peaceful after we pushed the cop out of the way. It's like,
yeah.
You know, but yeah, the other thing I wanted to say about Suella Braverman's kind of depiction of, it's basically like Orientalism for the North. Just this idea of like, you can't go there. Those are the Badlands, you know? Just by evoking Ulster, which, you know, obviously people have pointed out, Ulster also includes fucking Donegal. So I guess that belongs to, you know, the dark days of a part of another country that we own, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well then, I don't know. Anyway, the point is that they're like kind of evoking the specter of the IRA and or like militants and all this type of shit. But they're like an Irish Times, the average Irish Times columnist would be the same. Like, or the Indo, where you just have to mention Ulster or Northern Ireland, and then that does the work for you. So you can just go like, yeah, but like these guys have ties with Northern Ireland, and then you just go, okay, you know.
There's a weird thing going on in the papers at the minute where, you know, Sinn Féin TDs have sued a few people over defamation. A few journalists.
Yeah. Do you know more about that?
No. But so I read like 10 articles and they all say the same thing. It's like they call it like, they refer to it as a SLAP. It's like it's an acronym. It's basically like,
what's that? What does that mean?
It's like, I don't know
SLAP.
what SLAPP. It's like,
oh yeah. What does that mean? I'm gonna find the acronym here just real quick.
But it's basically like you do it to
strategic lawsuit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Strategic lawsuit against public participation. Sorry about that.
So it's like the idea is that it's to create a quieting effect on a chilling effect. Now, there's no like all the articles are just like, yeah, Sinn Féin keep doing these slaps against journalists to make them too afraid to talk.
Yeah.
Which it hasn't ever. Like,
no.
And then Varadkar saying the same thing, and I think I can't remember. Loads of people are saying the same thing. So then, and they were always like, Mayor Lou has sued 3 times, and Pierce Doherty sued once, and Chris Anders, is that his name?
Yes, I actually have a little background on that here.
Yeah, well, then I was like, okay, so in order for them to be like the slap, they must be unfounded. Do you know what I mean? So then I was like, let me investigate. Let me see if I can figure out what the lawsuits were over.
exactly. That's the same with me.
They just they're not reporting on it, and it's like like it's very clear. Like I don't think it's great for politicians to be suing journalists. If I'm honest. Yeah. But like, also Sinn Féin get a really weird, like they have such a competitive relationship. Where like the media have a very combative relationship with Sinn Féin. Like Shane Ross writing a whole book about Mary Lou MacDonald, or Eva Grace Moore writing one about the IRA, or about Sinn Féin, and then being like, why don't they want to talk to me when I'm writing my hack job on them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I love that there was one of the things that was about that book where, I can't remember who it was, but there was some guy that she said was dead, and then somebody said, like, that'll come as a surprise to him. You know, like that he died in like a hunger strike, and it was like she'd just gotten his name wrong. Basically, I can't remember what it was, but apparently it was like one of the worst. Like, you know, the Shane Ross book and that book, the Irish Independent, like just like fucking rubbing their hands together. Can't wait to review it, and then they review it, and they're just like, God damn it, man! Why couldn't you give me something? You know, there's nothing here for me to make a meal out of, and But anyway, sorry,
So I don't know what any of the lawsuits were over. I don't know.
This is it,
do you know what the Chris Andrews one was?
Well, that's what I was going to say, because like I was trying to look that up as well, and then, you know, the assumption then is like, oh, they can't talk about it because if it's part of an ongoing criminal proceeding or whatever, then maybe they can't talk about it. But like all these people jump out of the woodwork to go like, you know, oh, I'm with Harry McGee. So Harry McGee in the Irish Times wrote some article. So this is from Shrill by Mouth, which is at...
Oh, so I just say, like, it makes sense, say, like, Harry McGee can't talk about it because it's part of an ongoing thing. But, like, surely it was perfect, it was neutral. Other newspapers could be like, this is what it's over.
Even if it's alleged to be over this, or alleged to be...
but they're not.
You know.
It's never described.
But and the reason was because it'd be too damning. So Shrill by Mouth at now I don't know what Ixilus, so it's spelled ISKESULLAS. So Shrill by Mouth is their name anyway on this, and they tweet. So the piece the hacks are having a je suis Harry McGee moment over is a crude gotcha, smearing Shinners with being Hamas supporters. And this is in the middle of an actual genocide where journalists and their entire families are being targeted and murdered by the Israelis. So here is, they've put down below. So this is from the Irish Times chapel of the NUJ, so that's the National Union of Journalists, I believe, notes with great concern Chris Andrews' action against the Irish Times and Harry McGee. Attempts to silence journalists or to stop investigative research through legal action filed by individuals, political parties, or by corporations are to be condemned. It reminds political figures that the Press Council of Ireland and Office of the Press Ombudsman exist as pathways to resolve complaints and are responsible for the oversight of professional principles. Solidarity to our colleague Harry McGee. Next photo is the potential article in question. Headline, Spotlight on Sinn Féin over its stance on Palestine after Hamas attacks. And then the subtitle reads, some party representatives avoided criticising the Hamas atrocity while expressing solidarity for Palestine before leader Mary Lou MacDonald condemned the attack outright on Monday. So I think that basically the thing that he's suing over is that they're saying that, well, because of no smoke without fire, you know, there's a terrorist group, or like Sinn Féin are linked with terrorism, and their solidarity with Palestine also means that they're linked with this other terrorist group.
Right,
Hamas.
okay.
So I think that that's what it is. There's no more information from that, and that's just what Shrill by Mouth says.
It's funny that, like, there's this focus on like this sort of punitive way of creating the chill effect of like threatening lawsuits and all this sort of stuff. But like the other way politicians manage to control the story is by like if you talk to any journalist, they're like, the way we work is we have a very cordial relationship with individual politicians in order to get information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, you just suck up to the politician, and then they will leak something to you a day early, and that's great for your career, and that's how you do the news. And it's like, that's also a way the politician controls the news. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Creates its own chilling effect, because You're not going to...
for sure. Those relationships.
Yeah. It's more mutually beneficial, but like it's not good journalism.
Yeah.
You know,
and like recently with RTE as well, for example, you know, like a lot of their journalists literally just go from the Associated Press. They just like, look, here's the thing. We talked about Tony Keneally like on the last episode, and then this week or the last week, whatever, he's he basically did. A lot of people were talking about him online because of his incredibly biased reporting with the Israel-Palestine. So like there is a hospital with the babies that are born prematurely that need to be in incubators.
Yeah.
And they're running out of electricity, and the generators don't have any fuel because Israel is doing a blockade. And then anybody who tries to leave the hospital, they got snipers positioned outside just shooting them, you know?
Yeah.
And so Tony Keneally did a piece for RTE where he basically said that, because of the power outages, these babies in incubators are at threat, but the Israeli government have said that they're going to go in there and move these babies, you know? And then it was obviously a complete lie.
Yeah.
It wasn't true at all. But the other thing about it is no mention in the piece about why the power outages are being caused.
Yeah. Like it's...
And, yeah.
Go on.
No, but Breach Smith then was on Sundays, The Week in Politics, I think is a show with Anya Lawler. And she basically just took the opportunity to be like, the media's actually been incredibly biased about this. And like Tony Keneally's kind of report was pretty disgraceful. And Anya Lawler, like, just uncharacteristically started, well, now you've made an accusation there. Suddenly there's like fucking energy in her voice. She's not just like a Tony Keneally, like dryly kind of delivering, yeah, these people died and this happened and who gives a fuck. And like I was saying this before, where with Ukraine, where it's like, isn't this disgraceful that this poor woman has to flee her home?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to Palestine, it's like, yeah, these babies are dying in incubators, but Israel said they'll do something about it, probably, whatever. Like, and then Anya Lawler, like when she gets really animated, like, you know, with this Harry McGee thing as well, it's because her pal has been challenged about his complicity in, like, you know, like the spotlight, that Harry McGee thing as well. Spotlight on Sinn Féin over its stance on Palestine after a mass attack. So who's putting that spotlight on them exactly?
Yeah.
What is the relevance of talking about Sinn Féin on this in this moment in time? Like, what type of connection are you trying to draw? And like, they really did try to make that, like, you know, and there's been a bunch of articles as well. Owen O'Malley in the Irish Independent putting out an article saying like, oh, you know, because of tensions are so high, people want you to have an opinion, but you shouldn't just be pushed into an opinion because we need to maintain our kind of, you know,
unless we put a spotlight on you.
Yeah,
but like, it's like you can see the complicity between people like Keneally and the Israeli government, because like what's happening there is like, you'll notice that like when you see an Israeli announcement to Palestinians,
yeah,
and a lot of the time it's in English. Like there's the one where he was we want this, we're announcing an evacuation order. You have a few days to get out of the country, out of Palestine. That was done in English, and it was also done to, like, supposedly to an area that had no electricity,
internet,
no communication,
or electricity.
Yeah. But actually, what they're doing is they're talking to journalists like Keneally.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's it. Like the Israeli government are like, you know, the place that we're too afraid to go into and is a complete war zone. Yeah. We're going to go in there and we're going to move the most vulnerable premature babies to a safe space. You know what I mean?
Why don't you just give them the fuel? What is wrong with you?
But
That's
like,
what I think.
But it's all, what I'm saying is, it's like, it's what they're describing is physically impossible for them to do.
Yes,
but it's just like it allows Keneally to be like, they said they're going to do the right thing, and that's fine, and you can't criticize the government for wanting to get rid of the Israeli ambassador, because we didn't have him in the country. Those babies would never have been saved by the Israeli government. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, we have to treat this country with respect because they're trying to do the right thing. It's like a mad agreement between the Irish government, the journalists in Ireland, and the Israeli government. You know what I mean? Just to like take the pressure of having to do anything.
You're probably wondering what happened to the rest of this episode. Well, it's behind a paywall at patreon.com/CelticLigers. For €5 a month you can the full uninterrupted weekly episode and access to bonus content as well as the back catalog. So, that happened.